the first time I experienced being black per se was when I moved from London. So I lived in Hackney and then I moved to Bedford. And I was in a new school in year 4 for about 2 months. The way the system works in Bedford is it's lower, middle, upper school, and when you finish year 4 you go to a new school. So I was in this school for literally 2 months, and as soon as I got in, the whole class was white and there was one Indian girl. This is a class of about 40 students and I'm the only black person. I'm used to being in London and it being very equal. It was pretty much half and half when I was growing up. So that was my first kind of, oh, okay, this is a bit different. Not only that, but I got in with a very, very, very bad group of girls when I got into that school. And I don't think this was necessarily the fact that because I was black, but it was just the fact because I was new when I got picked on and stuff like that. And that was, I would say, the first time I experienced bullying. And when I moved school to year 5, I went to a completely different school where I didn't know those people. They went to another school. My mum wanted me to go to like the best school. She was not settling for anything less, and she fought for me to get in that school. And it was okay. It wasn't too bad. But then in year 7, I think it was, there was this thing called Form Spring. And what Form Spring was, was the fact that people could ask you anonymous questions, and let's just say what I got were never ever questions. The things that I got on my Form Spring were things such as your skin is the colour of the dirt of my shoe, you're by far the ugliest thing to walk the earth of said school that I went to, your lips are the size of beach balls, you should not even be alive. My belly button, I had a profile picture at the time and my belly button was out because I was wearing a crop top, and someone also wrote a post saying, what was it? Saying your belly button looks like a raisin that I would eat. So I got lots and lots of stuff along those lines, and that's just a few. And I would say it affected me so much. And the thing in particular was the fact that I didn't tell anyone. So I really kept it to myself for a long period of time. So from like year 7 all the way up until year 12, I think is when it finally came out. And during that time, I battled with depression, I saw a counsellor, I just lost relationships, I broke relationships, and it definitely affected me. It was an experience that I never thought I'd experience, and it was an experience that I wouldn't even wish my worst enemy to go through, because at that stage you are trying to find who you are, you're trying to find out what you want to do, and getting things like that, it really affects your mind. And I would say that to this day, I still battle with that. To this day, there's still times when I think about what those people, I don't even know who they are, which I think is even worse, but when I think about what those comments were, and it affects me. It makes me see myself in a different light, and I go from being this confident, loud, sociable person to someone who is scared, timid, and just doesn't know what to do.
So all these comments were made all due to the fact that you're black?
So it was all about my colour, about my features, so having big eyes, big lips. I've got a sticky out belly button, so about that. So it was literally features. It's really funny now because it's features that nowadays, this is what people want. You have the Kylie Jenners and so on using lip plumpers and all this stuff. But back in the day, which is only like 8 years ago, but back when I was younger, it was seen as just something nobody wanted. So it's not funny, but it's quite interesting, I would say. And when I look back on my life, yes, it affects me, but it's part of me, and it's what people want now. So I've got it, I guess. I think as a black person, you live in constant fear. Oh gosh, I'm going to start getting teary. You live in the fear of not knowing what people are thinking, and I feel like it's one of those things where when I walk into a room, I know people are judging me, I know people are looking at me because I'm black. When I answer questions in class, when I ask questions in class, or when I answer other people's questions, or I start a debate, I know people thinking, oh, she shouldn't know that. Or I know people like, oh, she's too loud. How can I be loud when I'm just stating my opinion? How can I be loud when I'm replying to your question? How can I be loud when I'm trying to understand and trying to get an education? It just does not make sense to me. It actually fathoms me how ignorant some people can be. And I feel like when you're black, you're just like the fear of just, I feel like you always feel like people are judging you. And I think that's something that I've never lived with when I was younger, up until I moved to Bedford and coming to university in Lincoln, because there's just so few black people, and the stuff you see on the news, it just puts pressure on you. It makes you even more scared because you don't know, could it be your life that's next?
What stuff?
So stuff of seeing how the police have killed unarmed men, just seeing the Black Lives Matter movement, and it's just, it's scary. It's actually scary because you're not safe. Like in theory, the people that are meant to be protecting you, the people who are meant to be looking after you, in theory they're doing the opposite. And if they can do that, then anyone else can do that. And I would say that because I know people have been racially bullied just for the fact of their skin colour, it scares you. Like the other day, one of my friends posted on his Facebook how he was in his car and this older Caucasian guy started like banging on his car and was like, oh, you shouldn't be having this car, spat at him through his car window and was like, you don't deserve this car, called him a nigger constantly. And this guy has worked friggin' hard for his life. He's worked so hard for the lifestyle that he's had. He has worked his butt off, and just to have one person think they have the right to try and take that away from him, and that because they're Caucasian that it's okay. Like the guy from the set, like he was like, why are you doing this? It was like, it's because you're a nigger, it's because you're black. How can that be okay? Like, it's like, I laugh, I cry, I get angry, I get frustrated. There's just so many emotions because you don't know. You just don't know what to do, you don't know how to react. It's funny because it's stupid, but you're scared because, as I said, you could be next.
Or because you're black.
Because you're black. That's what it is, because you're black. Someone feels that they have the right to bash you and have the right to say things about you. I just think society is completely messed up. I really do. So I think society definitely, there's the thing of wanting to have a bigger bum, wanting to have bigger boobs, wanting to have bigger lips, the fascination of wanting to have big hair, big eyes, so on and so forth. And these are things which black people, black culture has had for generations and generations and generations. But all of a sudden, in the past, I would say like past year maybe, because there's white people, it's made to seem so much bigger. Even you've got like Spanish, Latino and all this stuff, but they kind of help in that white category. But I would say that yes, it is seen bigger, and it is, as a society does make it seem more desirable and less desirable on the black person, even though it's tends to be more natural.
My first experience of not racism, feeling different. Yeah, feeling different was when I first moved to my new school in Essex. We'd come from Zimbabwe, my bad. And this was my first time experiencing like a white school. So if people haven't really been to Essex, well, my part of Essex was very white when I moved in. So I was literally the only black girl. I think I had one mixed race girl, but she looked white, so I think she kind of got away with it from like looking different, like physically different. But yeah, so I thought I would fit in all right, to be honest, because I'd been to like different like international schools in the past, but this was just very different. So I think the first thing I remember from being in that school was how the kids in the school were like, oh, have you had collagen or like Botox or surgery done? And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, your lips, like, why are they so big for? And it's like, I'd never actually realised that my lips were big at all. I thought everyone was just, you know, whatever it is, it's lips, it is what it is. So from then on, I just got really, really conscious about my lips. I would like find ways to like pull them back in kind of thing, or try not to talk or laugh as wide as I wanted to kind of minimalize how big they, because it was a thing they always say all the time, and it just kind of drew attention to it. So when you're trying to like grow up in this new country, and people are saying this, you just feel, okay, right, I'm definitely different. And I guess that kind of carried on through life, really. So things like I speak really well, stuff like that. So I loved English. My mom was an English teacher, so like English was like the thing. Like it was something that if I didn't do good in it, my mum would literally like beat me because, you know, she taught English at that time. So I liked English, I did English, and I actually got into like gifted and talented stuff where you actually have like extra lessons, all that kind of stuff. And people would be really surprised that I'd enter the room and there's just this one black kid in this like sea of white kids in this like special like English program, and they'd be like, wow, like you really do speak really good English. And I'm like, how come you're not saying this to like Bob or Sally? Like, how come you're saying this to me? So it just carried on reinforcing the fact that nah, you actually are not the same. So it just makes you think about your actions a lot more and how you're perceived. So I'll try and just minimize myself and make myself small, so people don't really realize that I'm in the room, which is not a nice feeling to have. But yeah, I'm like the first black female vice president academic affairs in Lincoln. So it's an interesting scenario. I think we've had a black VPAA before, but he was a dude, and he was like a big dude. So like, you know, you kind of don't really, when he entered the room, he kind of commanded that presence because of his size, and he was a big black guy. So I think maybe a lot of things he'll get away with it because people may feel intimidated by him. So that kind of worked in his advantage. Whereas with myself, and furthering on from that, even the meetings that you're sat with a table of old white geezers who, you know, just don't have, they're just so behind in the time. So maybe as a black man, you can find a way to interact and find a way to be cool with that. But as a black woman, there's no common ground with me at all. So I'd get like double like glances and people like, oh, okay, hi. And I'm like, why are you looking twice? Like, you don't do that when, you know, Judith walks in the room. Like, okay. Or when they're in discussions about stuff, they would physically not look at me. They'll be like, okay, so what do you think, Paul? That's really wonderful. And there you go, Margaret, that's wonderful. And I'm like, I'm talking to you. Even when I'm talking sometimes, people will just not look at me. And I'm like, how am I meant to like represent students when people aren't even looking at me when I talk? So anyway, funnily enough, when I actually began this role, I had a sit down with Mary, the Vice Chancellor, and she was actually born in Zimbabwe as well. So we have like quite a lot of like similar stuff because she kind of gets what Zim's like, and she's very, not sympathetic, but she understands it, she just gets it because like she knows what it's like. We sat me down and she was like, nah, you're entering this interesting world of academia and it's ruled by old white men. That's who rules it. You're coming in as a black young woman, and she was like, I will not lie to you, like you're gonna face some crap. Like she was very honest, was like, you're gonna face it, but if anything at all happens that you feel is making it uncomfortable, let me know, like 100%, like keep me in the loop basically. But I think that was a good thing for me because at least I knew that if I was to feel uncomfortable, she would get it. She wouldn't think, oh, you're just being petty, you know, sort of like exaggerating things. She would actually get it. I've never had to go to her about anything because like the issue just asked me pretty well. Like I can, if something goes wrong, like it's handled within the union. Like, I don't have to go up to like VC like, oh my goodness, help me out. But that's something that like we were very aware of. So I think trying to get my voice heard or having it listened to, I've had to sometimes get like James, the CEO, who is, you know, middle-aged white guy, you know, blends in with the scene. I have to sometimes bring him in with me because I know that if I was to suggest something to these people, they just won't take me seriously, or they'll be like, yeah, that's great, and then brush it off. So it's just a shame that even in my position where I should have power and I should have, you know, the confidence to go and make change, I still feel that in certain, when I meet certain people, some of the old guys who've been in uni for the past like 20 years, like from when Lincoln was still Lincoln and Humberside, those kind of people, they will still not listen to what I have to say or take it as serious. So sometimes I have to bring backup, and it just makes me feel like I've been elected into this role, and yet I still can't fulfill it to how I need to, because some dude or some woman can't look past the fact that I am black. Like, how? This is not what got me elected. My manifesto got me elected. What I've done got me elected. What I'm doing is what you should be looking at. Not this. This has nothing to do with what I'm trying to do. Like, so it's frustrating at times. And like, I call my dad every single day. I'm like a daddy's girl, and I always tell him, he's just like letting me know that when you're in a situation, you should use the fact that you're different to an advantage. Like, they don't understand things the way that I get. So instead of me feeling like, let me keep quiet and not speak, they only know the typical straight white thinking, whereas I can bring a completely diverse point of view. So I should use that as like a catalyst and not as a, oh shit, I'm actually different, let me just take a seat back. Like, no, that I should be something that I use as a platform to even speak louder. So I'm only just getting the grips of that now, because it's hard to describe the tension. And these are like, this is academia. This is something that has not changed for the past hundreds of years. These are people that have written our curriculum. There is nothing about us that is positive in their work. So for me to be standing there saying, I'm involved in this and I'm going to point out what's different, that's rocking the boat on so many levels that you can feel that people are not accepting of it. So yeah, I work a bit harder, but the job gets done. Like, I'll be in the office till like 8 o'clock because I know I have to send out emails to people to get people to like support what I'm trying to do. And most of like last year, like Brian and Olivia, they didn't have to stay behind writing emails to people just so they can get like support. They just be like, yeah, what do you think about this? Oh, Brian, that's a wonderful suggestion. Is I know I need to get like allies to support me, which makes a simple win for me is something that like a simple win for like my colleagues is something that I've had to work a bit extra, like spent a bit more time writing a report, writing this and that, just to get the same outcome. But I'm hoping that through my experience that won't be the same for, because I hope I won't be the first and the last. I'm pretty sure there'll be many more after me, but I'm hoping that like that kind of breaks the mold. It's either that or the old geezers pass away and we have a fresh new batch of academia, but until then it's just a push of stuff. It's very subtle. Like I was saying earlier, it's very polite racism. We're talking to some like white dudes. I was talking about how, asking me where I came from, and as I came from Zimbabwe, they're like, oh, that's wonderful, it's Africa. So like, what happens? You guys still do the whole dance around the fire thing and the mud huts and stuff. Like, how is that? Did you really enjoy that when you're growing up? And I'm like, what makes you think that that's the thing? Like, is that really? Has Africa's image not changed? Has black people's image not changed? That you still think that that's what would amount to? Like, really? And I was just like, okay, like, we clearly have a lot of work to do. Another thing, I went to get my tattoo done and I called up the tattoo person, and in the background, like, I went there the day before and then I was calling just to confirm, like, is this all right? And then on the phone, the dude was like, oh yeah, do you mind if like Nai comes to get her tat done? They were like, which one's that? They're like, oh yeah, the coloured girl. And I was just like, how is, like, did you just call me coloured? Like, this is in what, when did I get my tat done? I can't remember, second year, 2013, I think. I was like, wow, like, this just shows that it's literally, it makes me deflated sometimes, think that we're actually just at the tip of the iceberg. We think like, yeah, we've done so much cool stuff, but then sometimes it kind of brings you back down to like, shit, like, we've done nothing.
So I remember I was in primary school, I think year 5 or year 6, and that was probably the first time I experienced racism, but I didn't know what racism was at the time. And someone said to me, well, a young boy said to me, you can't be seen when you're crossing the road. You're only seen when you are stepping on the white lines of the zebra crossing. And I thought, okay, well, that's not true because I've never been run over before, and if that was the case, then they'd do something about the roads, but I didn't understand the implications of that until I was older. So I was like, okay. Then I ignored that because of how my mum brought me up. Always give love instead of show hate back. But I think the first time it really got to me was when it was, I think, my first year of college. I'd had an argument with a good friend of mine, and we ended up going out because the girls were like, it's okay, we'll squash this, let's go out, have a girls' night. And we were queuing up to get into a club, and someone said to me, where are you from? I told him I'm from Kenya. I was like, so where's your mum from? From Kenya. Where's your dad from? From Kenya. And I was thinking, where are you going with this? He said, no, you're not. You're lying. I was like, what? I'm lying about myself, like I don't know where I'm from. Basically, he tried to tell me because he said, I'm lying because I'm too light to be a full Kenyan. And that's the first time that it's really got to me, like, whoa, maybe I'm too light to be black. And it starts to question, like, what happened? Like, why is my pigmentation not the same as others? And because Kenyans are stereotypically known for being dark, I just started to question myself a lot, and just came to the fact that I have to accept that not everyone in this world is, what's the right word? I don't want to say educated, because we all are, but some people are ignorant. Yeah, ignorance would be the right word to use. So that's the one that stays in my mind, that someone thought I wasn't black enough because I wasn't dark enough. So there was a time I believed that I wasn't pretty enough, or I wasn't part of my race because I wasn't dark enough, and that was this is the first time I'm actually talking about this out loud. But yeah, it was very, I don't know. Yeah, it was a life-changing moment. Until I had experienced racism, I did not know what racism was.
So
I was completely unaware that someone would see me differently, or someone would want to call me names, or someone would give me a certain look because I was black. And I remember going to see one of my lecturers, and he told me I'd failed his module. And I was like, okay then. I'm not a believer of dwelling on the past, so I thought that my lecturer was calling me and lets me know how we can move forth, or kind of give me that kick that I needed. But instead, he went on and on and on, and although he said a lot of things, there's one thing that stuck to me, and it will never leave me for the rest of my life. He said that as a black female, statistically, I am going to struggle. So I was like, I need to try and hold my tongue somehow, because I don't want to be stereotypical, but no, this was in the moment when I was speaking to my lecturer. I was just thinking, like, just try and be respectful to your elder. That's how I've been raised, that's how I've been brought up. But the only thing I just thought was, why see me as a statistic? And that is how I feel a lot of black people, not even a lot, just black people are seen in general. Why look at me as a black person and see me as a statistic? Why not look at me as a human being? Because that's what I am. And yeah, it's just, even to this day, it's puzzling. As a black female, statistically. So you don't see me as before you even see me as a female, you see me as another category. And that's one thing I really dislike, being categorized. It's bad enough that I'm a female, but I'm also black, so I have to be black and female. And then it's like a hierarchy. I'm trying to have to jump over hurdles every now and then in order to be recognized through someone's eyes. But yeah.
I think the thing that really gets to me is when I'm constantly told you don't sound like a black girl and you don't act like a black girl, because I'm still trying to figure out what a black girl is supposed to sound like and what a black girl is supposed to act like. I mean, I was born here and I grew up here, but funnily enough, my parents still have a very thick Jamaican accent. And don't get me wrong, I can speaking patois, but I just speak like me. I don't see why it has to be the fact that I'm speaking correctly. I have to sound like I'm speaking like a white person to kind of get on the good side of a white person. I mean, I've always spoken like this, but then when I get annoyed, I sound like a black person, and I sound like I'm angry and pissed off, and I sound like your typical girl from South London, which is, I never really understood that. It's something that people could say, well, that's a good thing. I don't really think it is, because at the same time that kind of distances me from my friends who don't sound like white people and sound more like a black person. I mean, I have what is considered to be a white name, and for someone who doesn't, it's kind of like I'm playing to the role that is supposed to be what a white person is supposed to act like and be like. I remember when I was kind of looking at universities and I spoke to UCAS about my likelihood of becoming a psychologist, because I know with psychology there's a lot of black people that just aren't represented in it, and I knew that. And the guy said to me, he said, do you, because we were on the phone, I was speaking to UCAS, and he said, do you mind telling me where you're from? And I said, well, I'm from London, but I think what you mean is that, I'm black. And he said, I think you should apply because you're more likely to get the position because they need more black people to kind of be represented in that course. And that kind of threw me off a bit, because I was thinking, right, I don't know if I'm supposed to take that as a compliment, but I'm not going to, because that's kind of like saying, oh, don't do this typically black course because you're more likely to not get onto it because there's too many black people or there's too many white people. Why can't people just go for what they want to do and make a difference in where they want to make it, rather than having to play to a particular role? That just doesn't make sense to me at all.
I'm not sure how I feel about, how the equality stuff is about, we have to create a diverse workforce, and we have to bring in different variety of people to look like we are inclusive. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm still very on the fence. People will say it's an opportunity, take it, regardless how it's given to you, take it. But I think, why are you giving me this opportunity? Are you actually doing it because of what I have done, or are you just doing it to tick a box? So again, my situation, are you actually listen to me because I have done quite a hell of a lot for students, or you just think, she's let's just bring her in and, make her feel at home and down with, the academia. Do you know what I mean? I don't quite know how to proceed. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that. Something that I think I'll have to ponder on for a while. But I can see both sides of it. But I think I may lean more to the notice me for what I do, not for what I look like, because I've experienced that myself. So I think I may sway more to that than the, it's an opportunity to take, because you have a chance to do it, just do it.
It can either be a good thing that you're black or a bad thing. And I don't think it should be either. I just think if you're qualified to be in a certain position, then you should go for it. And the name on your CV and the colour of your skin shouldn't affect that at all. I think, unfortunately, a lot of black people are misrepresented in so much industries, and those that really make it for themselves have to really push through all of the types of prejudice and racism that comes their way. And I feel like, yes, we do have to work even harder just to make a difference, and that's bad, because there are so much people that are hardworking, black, white, wherever you're from, and we shouldn't be made to feel that we have to work harder just to get that particular job and just to get a certain type of money.
It's harder for you to, when you're black, to think of yourself as more than what you are, and to try to sort of defeat the stereotypes, and you find you live a whole life of trying to prove people wrong, And I feel like being black, I was growing up with the mentality that you have to be twice as better as everyone else, and things like that. That I feel like it puts pressure on you already, and when you do find out how the world works, you kind of see how how such a great percentage of black people make up the majority of the prison system, And once you're in the prison system, you got criminal record, you can't come out, you can't get a job. And even if before you had a criminal record, you can't get a job anyway. It's just, it can make you feel like you're doomed to fail. From my own personal experience, knowing people that, you know, are on the wrong side of the law. Well, I study law, and I kind of see how everything sort of turns out. So from a black male perspective, because I can't speak on a black female perspective except from my master's experience, but I feel like it can feel like sometimes everything just sort of doomed to fail, because then I have a lot of black friends, I have a lot of friends that are of all colours, and the one thing that black people feel, we all kind of feel like the same sort of things, you know. Everyone feels the same sort of struggles, and I feel like there's a lot of just underlying racism, that everyday racism that people, you know, don't seem to realise.
I've been subject to some stereotypical moments that some people may have thought that I was doing something wrong when I don't believe I was. Say for example, when I was going into, I actually won't say the shop, I was going to a shop and there was a security guard, and I was coming in with my friends, and the thing is, like, we go gym a lot. We go gym, and after we go gym, we go to get chicken, got the protein, stuff like that. So obviously we're going to be in gym attire, which is the stereotypical hoodies, and you know, just stuff you're going to be comfortable in. But you can tell that when we come to the shop, the guy kind of sees us and addresses us as, I don't know, the foreigners per se, or whatever you want to describe us as in the attire we're wearing. And you can see how his behaviour shifted as we started to, you know, go into the shop. You see how he changed from kind of generally surveying the area to fixated on like one particular area. Not trying to, you know, actively say that he's looking out at us, but, you know, adjusting his position, moving in a way, you know, you could say that he was following where we were going and just trying to do the stuff that discreetly. But everyone in our group, obviously we're all black and Asian people, you could just tell that he had his eye on us. So like, there has been occasions where I've been searched by the police because I fit to the description, is what they say, you know. They try and use all these words to not make themselves seem racist. However, you know what they're trying to say, if you know what I mean. You can't help being racist, I believe. You can't help making a snap judgment on somebody's attire, their age, their gender, their skin, when you actually make the physical act on it. When you start following me around your shopping complex because you think you want to steal something, is when I feel that is the wrong part. And what I believe does happen a lot in our generation. And I do understand, like, stereotypes come for a reason and you can't help but acting on it is where I feel that a lot of people in power go wrong. That's the thing that we don't really notice, is that the people in power are the people who are going to do the stuff that affects the majority of us. You can get that one racist dickhead, like back in, I don't know, you can get that one racist dickhead on the street who comments on you, but at the end of the day you can drive away, you never see them again. But when that policeman who can technically ruin your life goes and starts saying, you match a description, can you please come talk to us? And then maybe because they're a prejudiced person in general, they escalate what you didn't do, is where it comes into a problem, which does happen. You can't deny it does happen.
I'm scared that if I have children that they'll experience either some of what I have or maybe worse. That frightens me, that the future is meant to be bright, but how bright is it going to be? Not just for me, but for my children, if I have any.
Because you're black.
Because they're going to be black. I mean, it's especially if I have boys, knowing that they'll walk down the street and they want to dress the same as everybody else, but because they have a hoodie, they're more likely to be stopped. Am I meant to tell my son that you can't wear this because the police are going to suspect you as someone who's about to rob a shop or something like that? You have to learn how to speak properly, whatever that may be. Because if you don't, then you're perceived as someone who's not so smart.
A lot of black people in the media have bleached, and the fact that they're kind of representing us, as a black woman, you feel like, okay, if this beautiful woman who's doing so much for herself is not beautiful enough, will I ever be? And I think that's something that I don't think we can ever really get past, when there are people like that who are representing us, and the people that really stay true to who we are and where we come from are so misrepresented. It's it's something that we're always going to have to fight with, I think.
Let's not take it wrong. People do profit off a black image as well. Because think about it, like say especially America, which is the center of the media on the planet, they try and take a lot of black tropes and play off as if it was never black in the first place. Like say like, why have big lips just become in fashion? Because Kim Kardashian does it. My mum's had big lips for time.
But when it comes to black girls, I mean, a lot of them, it's, you know, you're pretty for a black girl, and it's those 4 words that just make it, it's just a slap in the face. It's, you know, and for a while I was thinking, you know, well, what is pretty? Do I have to dye my hair blonde and have it straight and all of this? And, you know, you don't have to. You don't have to do all of that. It's just be who you are and what you want to be. And when I do decide to dye my hair blonde and be straight, I'm not trying to be a white person, I'm just trying to be me. I'm just trying to do what makes me happy.
Do you get a lot of criticism for doing your hair blonde?
Yeah, and I don't get that, because who said that the white people made the blonde image and had the long straight hair and all of this? It's, you know, our hair is so versatile, we can do whatever we like with it, and there's only so long you can sit in braids and so long you can sit in twists and everything. And if you are in braids, you're a typical black girl, and if you're not, you're kind of running away from your culture. But at the end of the day, you take it all off and I'm still me. I've still got the afro hair, I've still got the curly hair, and if it's not seen as a bad thing, it's seen as, oh my gosh, you know, I didn't know your hair was like that. And I just think people are so ignorant to it. I mean, I grew up in a school that was mostly white, and if I came out with the little puffs in my hair, they'd be touching it all over, and oh, it feels like cotton candy and all of this. And it's like, as a child, you're so naive, and you think, oh, you know, you like my hair, but you wonder why are you doing that? You know, it's just hair. It's just how I decide to do it. I've seen so many white people with dreadlocks and all of this, and it's trendy for them. But when we do it, it's, you're a typical Jamaican, and when are you going to get your hair dreadlocked? You know, things like that.
So, living in the UK, I felt insecure about being black. I felt very insecure about being black, especially when you go to high places, prestige places, because you don't really know how a person's going to react, or how the people there are going to react to seeing you. And there's always this idea that if you wear your natural hair, it's unprofessional. I was also interested in acting, and I wanted to pursue performing arts and become an actress. But I remember in my class, this problem we had, as the black teens had, was how are we going to actually get jobs? Because when we look at the English media, you rarely see any black characters, especially if you look at if you watch EastEnders, if you watch Hollyoaks, if you watch Emmerdale. It is so rare to see black characters on those shows. You do get a recurring role. It's not going to be as long, and you're not going to have a script for as long as all the other characters on set. And that was a worry that we had, like we're going to struggle to find jobs unless we can go to another country like America, but then, you know, it's going to be hard going to America where the competition is even bigger. And even if you do get a job in acting or TV, it's always those dramas where it's kidulthood, adulthood, top boy, where you're made to play someone who lives in an estate, who, if you're a female, you're always holding weapons, drugs or whatever for a guy, you're always being abused, you're just nothing. Or you're a black girl who has a lot of attitude, who thinks you're high and mighty, so you feel the need to talk down at people. The way that I didn't want to involve myself in that portrayal of black people. I just did not want to, because that's not how I see myself, and that's not how I was raised.
I feel like all this can stop. Like, all the discrimination, the suppression, and the whole inequality between, well, against black people.
So I've heard different versions of things, right? I've heard race will only stop when you stop talking about it. I've heard that side of things. Then I've heard the side of things where we've got to keep on banging on about it until people get it. So I don't side with the whole race will stop and when we stop talking about it. I don't think that's the way to go, because by staying quiet or staying silent, that does nothing to advance you. It just makes you brew and fester, and nothing comes out of festering and brewing. We know that for a fact. So I think we can't be blind to it. Like this whole, let's just love everyone, we're all one world, it's gonna be great, we're all one color. The hell, we're not one color. Like, we're black, we're white, we're Asian, we're different. That's a good thing though. Like, I don't think we should try and, live this one human thing. Like, we're not. We're a really diverse thing, or a diverse bunch of people on this planet. We should celebrate that and make that a thing and find a way to make that work for us. But I don't know how long that will take. But I think by ignoring and staying silent, that's not the way to go. I don't think that's the way to go. We need to talk about it and find a way to keep it on our radar. But I don't know how long that's gonna take. I don't think it'll be in my lifetime, that's for sure. I think it will still be going on. Like, I think my kids may still be affected by it. No, I don't think it will change within my lifetime. But if I can do something to help change my next door neighbor from being a downright racist to being someone who accepts me, then that's one less person who will poison the rest of the earth, and I'm happy with that.
One of my favourite discussions about race, one of my favourite things I've learned about racism, is when a lady called Jane Elliott did a social experiment based on eye colour. And I think this is right, but check it out yourself. I think the reason why she chose eye colour is because it has, it's formed through melanin as well. So I thought that was really interesting. I never knew that. But she separated the Oprah audience by treating people who had brown eyes better and with more privileges, I guess, as opposed to the people who had blue eyes. So when they got into the audience, the people with blue eyes tried to fight their case and say, like, why did you treat me differently? You were rude to me, etc., etc. And then the people with brown eyes eventually bought into it, and they started to feel more superior. Like, yeah, I should have been treated the way. Of course, I deserve coffee and donuts. Why wouldn't I? I mean, hello, you've got brown eyes. That's the best thing ever. So they've all bought into this idea, and then one person in the audience shouted, "Oh yeah." During that, people with blue eyes had to wear a green collar or be given a green card. So someone in the audience said, "Why don't you have a green card or green collar? You have blue eyes." And Jane responded with, "It's because I've learned how to act brown-eyed." So when I watched that, I had to pause and just thought, whoa. Don't you feel that? Like, whoa. Do you get what that means? She learned and she understood what it meant to be brown-eyed. And the audience eventually caught on that it was a thing about race. And what I learned from that, and she said it as well, I think, in the interview, is the fact that the different races is man-made, but we all have to remember that race, there's only one race, and that is the human race. Like it or not, that's how we started off. The differentiation is all man-made. So if we can find a way to remember that and learn and just teach people that as we're going forth, then that would teach us to stop being colour blind and colour brave, because there's a difference. And I think with being colour brave is the fact that it's not, I think you're being smart about it. It's encouraging people to talk about it and not overlook the problem.